Design strategy, from my perspective, is, and I've been trying to shorten my definition ever since I started on this path. It's a desirability led strategy. You have to ask, what is strategy in the first place? So whenever you set a goal for a certain, say, product or a business or a company, there are certain steps that you need to take to that goal, and to that, according to those steps, you have to do resource allocation, you have to do planning, etc., etc. So that setup of steps is what is creating a strategy to reach that overall goal. uh, when you say design strategy, that means you are bringing the element of design. And when we say design, it's not, we are not meaning about creation here, we are meaning of design creation here. We are trying to say desirability led. So desirability led strategy is what design strategy is. That's the shortest definition. Now, if you start diving deeper into what do you mean by desirability led, then it's about understanding what do the users value, what do the customers that you're trying to target. We don't like to use the word customer; it's too corporate. What do the people value? Is the is what desirability led means. Does that answer your question? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does. It does. Because, adding human-centered thinking and basically design thinking into the business part of basically the product, basically, I feel like it adds a whole new dimension. Because before we even come to the actual development of the product, we are thinking, where can this product lead us to, And I feel like it's a huge important part in saving resources, time, and also envisioning what this product will be. And that's why we came up with this topic of designing for the future, because you're like the best person, like, who can actually lead us to it. So I have very little experience working with design strategists. I remember one of the product projects that I was working with, strategy and research officially was the first part, but we had some difficulties translating design strategy insights into actual features, because as a designer, from a designer side, I have to look into the market trends, what is like the new thing in the market, keep the product hip because people will not use it otherwise. And in the end, sadly, design strategy just became something that basically was a garland. Okay, so, and I always wondered like how collaborative this work as a designer is. And if you have any such experiences, working with designers, the challenges that you faced, and if you can give us some insights on it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point that you have brought up around design strategy just becoming um, one thing that you talk about but not exactly execute, or the question of what to do next. What do
Yeah,
I do with this insight? This is a
yeah,
very common thing that has been seen in the industry. I have experienced that. Um, I have been on both side of table around asking somebody this question, and then also in my early days trying to answer this question, what to do now. So um, I can share the challenge that I faced once. I'll try to tell this as a story. So design strategy is first desirability led innovation, or desirability led strategy. So that means you have to understand what the users value. And for that, you have to do a lot of user research. That's where you start.
yeah.
So in the first step itself, we did a lot of user research, really good, robust research, one of my best that I have done or been a part of. And we did all the analysis, synthesis, came up with great insights and great storytelling, all the personas, etc. um, Great future vision and everything. And we painted a really beautiful picture of the future and said this would be a business impact, etc., etc. And we presented it. What was the result? The question, okay, this is all great, what do we do now? And When I look back today, I don't think we answered that question in the best way at that moment in time, and it just causes frustration in your stakeholders. They are like, okay, this is fine, what do I do next? Whether it is your engineers, whether it is your business leaders, or sometimes even designers, because they don't have actionable next steps. So since then, what I have learned are two things. One is the collaborative nature of the work, and two is actually laying out the actionable next steps. It's not always about the grand vision that you're painting. You have to trace it back to today and think about what is the first thing, what is the first step that you can take to climb that huge flight of stairs, if that makes sense. So, talking about a little bit about the collaborative nature of the work, it is highly collaborative, and I believe design should be like that at whatever the area of work it is, wherever you are applying design methodology, it should be collaborative. That's not only because you get the best results in that way, it's also because you bring people along your journey and they have a part in it and they start to believe in it. So the challenge, or the situation that I just told you about, one thing that I think we also did at that time was, we thought we would create this beautiful masterpiece and we would present it to our customers, and they are going to like it. They are going to love it. Uh, Customers or stakeholders, let's say stakeholders, they're going to love the result, or they'll give feedback, and we'll be done. However, it doesn't work like that. I learned my lesson about collaboration, and the next time, so it was kind of a redo that we had to do for that project, and this time the approach was that at every step we are going to bring in our key stakeholders, we'll collaborate with them, think out loud with them, and go to the next step. And this time around, Anna, the project landed so well, it became part of the strategy of whatever we were working on. And with that collaborative nature of work, we were also able to work with the engineers and the planners to trace back the steps and think about what is the first actionable thing that we can do, what are the table stakes that we have to take care of today and tomorrow, and then which will lead us to 5 years down the line and 10 years down the line.
So when you transition from automotive industry like Ford to Google, so how was it? Like, did you feel like suddenly there's a huge change, or like was it like easy for you?
There are certain things that remain constant. It doesn't matter what I'm working on, what I worked on at Ford, or what I'm working on in Google right now. And this is just one thing that I would like to clarify here. These are my views. These doesn't represent any of the companies that I have worked for, or any organizations that I'm working with right now. So one thing that remains constant in my work is seeking what do the stakeholders value. That is absolutely constant, and I told you at the beginning of this conversation that that is a flip that happened in my head when I was still in the architecture school. So whatever projects or whatever um, you know workshops or whatever sprints that I have been a part of, that is what I'm looking for. What do my stakeholders value? And when I say stakeholders or users, it's not only about the end user or one who's going to buy the product or the service. It's also about the other stakeholders. That's why I use the term stakeholders. The internal stakeholders to the company, the stakeholders between the company and the end customer. So when you think about all the stakeholders as a system, as parts of a system, you have to cater to all of them. So I think that's been constant. So it doesn't matter which company or project I am on. I think that's where my desirability led journey to execution begins.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, sir. That's really nice. Now, coming to the recent trends in in UX and in the world. So we have after the pandemic and everything. we have seen a huge boom in, metaverse, and now there is Web3. So these are all things that are actually, moving at a very fast pace, and a lot of developments are happening in different sectors in this area. So from a strategist point of view, if we have to like envision a design in that, what will be the main things that you will, keep in mind?
Yeah, that's a very current question, right? And I believe I was having this discussion yesterday with some of my friends and my wife, who's also a strategist. Um, First of all, when we think of metaverse or Web3, we are just scratching the surface. Everything that you see and hear is just basically people's opinions on basis of an idea of a future. And you're right when you said that it gained traction when the pandemic happened, but it didn't start then. It has been there for a while, and I'm specifically talking about metaverse. In fact, when I was in high school, I believe it was sixth grade or something, that was the first time I actually became part of a metaverse. It was, I don't even remember the year now. I still had the dial up connection, but there was this platform called Second Life. And in Second Life, you could create your avatar, and there was a virtual world you could create and build houses. You could buy pieces of land, all with real money. There was a conversion value of $1 to 100 Second Life dollars or something like that. But it was basically everything that some other companies leaders have recently announced that they are going to do. It's So it has existed, and if you see in the recent times, there are popular video games like Grand Theft Auto, PUBG, Fortnite, etc., where you can spend real money on virtual gear and dresses and hairstyles,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah.
So all these things connected to the internet, all these are already showing what a metaverse could be. And if you think about the pop culture, then Matrix, Matrix is, I believe, Matrix is the ultimate metaverse where we don't want to go. Uh,
Yeah.
and then there is, in recent times, there is Ready Player One, which showed that. But so that's what we are doing. We are um, scratching the surface. All of us, I think, to some extent, have been a part of a metaverse in some form. Like even if you have donned a internet connected virtual reality headset, you have been a part of it. um, what are the potential and capabilities of this? Nobody knows. Everybody is still figuring out. Yes, we have a
Yeah.
fair idea, or we have a and when I say idea, I don't mean fair idea about what it's going to be, but a fair idea about what it might be, what it could look like. That's where we are. um, so that's about metaverse. And Web3 is essentially decentralization of internet. Um, it's the next step, natural next step that had to happen. And if you think about them together, metaverse and Web3, they are going to power each other. Decentralization of internet and metaverse. I'm not an expert in any of these topics, but I can certainly tell you from a designer perspective, the things that we need to think about. I think one of the biggest thing that we as designers bring to the table is, or we as designers will bring to the table in this context of metaverse, is our humanity. I think with AI powered metaverse where everybody is trying to get somewhere and living in the virtual world, not all the time, I hope that doesn't happen, but to some extent, like for example, in the past 10 years, we have been living in the social media um, for a large chunk of our lives. Even if you
Yeah.
spend 1 hour on any social media platform, you are basically living in it. You don't walk in it, but you send out virtual hearts to some things that people have created. So, or a thumbs up maybe. So you're living in it already. Um, how do we stop that from happening? What happened to social media to the metaverse? That's what we bring as designers to the table, or as a design strategist to the table, thinking about what users value, but not trying to milk it.
Yeah.
For example, in social media, so there is this field of design which is called persuasive design, or which is, and then a related field called behavioral design. So you design around behaviors, you design around how people think or how people change their behaviors, etc. There are good application of that field of design. um, for example, if somebody is going to a rehabilitation center, you can design around behaviors to help them come out of whatever they are in, and whatever situation they are in, for faster recovery. In healthcare, there are huge impacts that you create, that you can create with behavioral design, persuasive design, etc. However, a lot of companies, I'm not going to name anyone, but there's a documentary on Netflix around this topic, where you'll see they have broken down how companies have built entire platforms using these type of behavioral design methods, where um, they keep you on the platform for a longer period of time. And what does that mean? That means more monetization, more money. So how can we stop that from happening when we build the metaverse? I think that's what we can bring to the table.
Thank you so much, sir, for the really good insight that you gave us on this topic. Uh, Apart from all this, like, what do you give an advice to young designers out there, trying to figure out like where to go, like, being in that transitional state? Because I know that you are mentoring students and, are active in ADP list and all. So, but like, some message from your side.
Yeah, I think to be a good designer, you need to soak a lot in first and then start to design. And where I'm getting to is something that I learned late in my um, design career, is to do a lot of research. Um, Good amount of research makes you a better designer. So when I had started designing in the architecture schools, design formally, one thing that I started to do, I think, is think about that I'm going to create the best product because I am the designer. And I am not going to look at anybody else's design, because I don't want to copy anybody. And what I'm going to create is going to be absolutely unique. That has a number of problems. The first problem is, what I'm creating in an isolated silo inside my head is my vision, and things that cater to me, which might not be applicable to anyone outside my peripheral vision. And the other problem is that I might be reinventing the wheel. I might create something that has already existed for past 10 years. And I might be thinking, oh, that was such an innovative moment in my design life. And I might be completely wrong. So read a lot, do a lot of research, talk to a lot of people. Um, no matter if you are designing a product, service, or a business idea, or if you are designing your life or your career, talking to people and research always helps. So, and put yourself out there, get feedback. If you're looking for mentorships, just go on LinkedIn, find people whose career is inspiring to you, or whose career path is something that you would also like to take, and try to talk to them. Yes, not everybody responds because everybody is busy, but if you send out 100 invites, you'll probably get at least five of them responding to you, and those are going to be like very useful conversations.